Good morning, and no thanks to these clouds. We were supposed to be leaving for Mexico right now, but because of these clouds, our flight has been delayed. Okay, so this is Editing Florence coming in here now. I put those clips that you just saw in the video, but I wanted to explain a little bit more in detail of what the clips were that I was showing from my travel day, just because obviously with everything that was going on, I wasn't going to pull out my camera and start talking on the plane, but I wanted to give you a little bit of background on that travel day because it really was pretty wild. Brig wanted to join, so here she is. Hello. So, you already heard this in the beginning of the video, but we had gotten a notification on our phones that our flight was going to be delayed, and this was shortly before we were going to leave to go to the airport. So, we were like, okay, well, this is really inconvenient. Our flight's going to be delayed, and we already had a really long travel day ahead of us because we had this flight that was going to get us there in the late afternoon, and then we had another 3+ hour car ride to get to Merida where we were staying. So we were like, this is really going to throw a wrench in things. We're going to have a lot of trouble here if our flight is delayed. Excuse me, can I help you? She just really wants to talk to you, I guess. So we were just making plans for what we were going to do if our flight got in really late. And so we had decided that we were going to maybe stay over in Cancun overnight just because driving 3 hours late at night just didn't sound like very much fun. So we had looked into maybe a hotel that we could stay at, and we were on the phone with Noah's parents to let them know that the flight was delayed and what our plans might be, when we got a notification on our phones that the flight was now undelayed. So, the flight was now taking off at the normal time. But of course, we hadn't left for the airport yet, and the airport is at least 40 minutes away from our house. So we had to just jump in the car really, really quick and head out, and we basically got through security and everything. Thank goodness that we had TSA pre-check. But we got through security and basically got there right as the flight was boarding, because we were flying Southwest, and so we had done early bird boarding, so we had some of the first seats in the A boarding section. So basically we got there and it was already essentially our turn to board, which was very frantic. And not how I would normally like to do things. But we were just so excited because we were like, oh, now we don't have to find a hotel in Cancun. We're going to be getting in at the regular time. Everything is going so smoothly, So the flight went great. We even kind of landed a little bit earlier than the flight time that we expected. So we're feeling really good about things. And then we notice that it's taking a really long time to taxi to the gate. We just keep going around, and at one point I was getting concerned because we taxied around, but then it looked like we were going back out to the runway, and I was like, are we gonna take off again? We just got here. And so I was getting a little concerned, and they finally came over on the intercom, and they said, we're waiting for a gate to open up. So we're just driving around while we wait for a gate to open up. And we were like, okay. So we go around there for a while, and they come over the intercom again, and they say that, oh no, we must have been, I guess it was because our flight was supposed to be delayed. maybe we landed a little late. I thought we landed early, but maybe we landed a little late. I think we have to, otherwise the story doesn't make sense. But because we had like missed our original gate time by a little bit, we ended up, they didn't have a gate for us to go to. So they had not planned for flights to ever be delayed at all, I guess, which is wild. They didn't squeeze us in between people. They just had us like taxiing around and around the airport. So then finally they just like pulled us into this out of the way area on the tarmac, and we just stopped there and we're just waiting and waiting and waiting, and they are trying to like find the air stairs to get us off the plane, and nobody is coming with the air stairs or whatever it is that they're called. And so we waited such a long time, and then somebody comes with the air stairs and they don't fit our plane door. So then they had to wait for like somebody else from Southwest to come and bring like a new one and operate it. They finally like brought one, but they didn't have somebody from Southwest to operate it. I don't know. And it ended up that like we landed at the time that we were hoping to land, but then we ended up sitting on the tarmac for 3 hours. And in that point it got dark and we were getting really upset. Everybody on the flight was amazing. I mean, there were kids on the flight that were so well behaved, and everyone was in pretty good spirits, like talking and joking around with each other, and they had been the whole flight. But we were still just getting a little bit like agitated because it was so stressful. And we had like a decision to make, because now we're back to being late to where we want to go. We're now back to the point where we have this like 3 or 4 hour car ride ahead of us from Cancun to Merida, and we're gonna get in at like 11 o'clock, midnight. So we talked about it and we were like, okay, well, should we get a hotel in Cancun or should we just get in the car? And eventually we said, you know what? Once we were off the plane, we were like, okay, we can probably do this. And we had the car all set up, a driver set up to take us to Merida. And so we were like, okay, we won't postpone them. We will go ahead and do it. So we got in the car, and it was a long drive, and I was really feeling beat down by the end of it. Like, it got to the point where we finally got to Merida after all of that time, and we hadn't even had dinner yet. It was almost midnight, and so Noah's parents offered us some food, and I just ate like as little of it as I felt like I could get away with, and then immediately just went to bed because I just couldn't even do it. But it was something else. And so I would probably not go back to Cancun just for that, because the airport is a nightmare and they are not set up for international flights. And I just wouldn't do it. I'm not much of like a beach resort person anyway, so I don't see why I would want to go back. But that really solidified it for me, because that was just an absolutely nightmarish experience trying to land in Cancun.